Assalamu alaikum. So today we're going to be talking about the cardiovascular system and the lymphatic system. Right? So what are these systems? So let's take a look at the cardiovascular system first. So the cardiovascular system includes the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood. So what is the purpose of this entire system? The cardiovascular system is the system that transports things like oxygen and glucose to all of the cells of the body. So the circulatory system is responsible for taking important nutrients and sending them wherever they need to in the body. It also takes waste products such as carbon dioxide, right? It takes waste products such as carbon dioxide from the cells and then brings it back so it can be taken away outside. So it delivers the nutrients where it needs to, and it also takes away waste products from the cells. The circulatory system also takes white blood cells and sends them all over the body in order to fight infections. Now, there's something similar called the lymphatic system. So both the cardiovascular system as well as the lymphatic system transport things throughout the body. But what's the difference, right? First of all, the lymphatic system does not have anything that pumps the substances throughout the lymphatic system. The cardiovascular system has the heart, which pumps blood all over the body. The lymphatic system does not have any kind of pump like a heart. In addition, the fluid that flows within these vessels in the cardiovascular system is called the blood. In the lymphatic system, this substance is called the lymph. Now, both of these are very important systems, and both of them are important for fighting infections. So how do these systems work together, right? Both of these systems are responsible for taking things all over the body. So how are they different? What do they do? Well, here's what happens, right? So the cardiovascular system pumps blood all over the body. If you take a look at this picture, you'll see these large blood vessels, right? You'll see arteries and veins that transport blood all over the body, or that transport blood all over the body. Now, when the blood is taken all over the body, sometimes some of the blood leaks out and doesn't return back into the blood vessels. So what happens? All of that fluid that kind of leaks out of the cardiovascular system is captured in the lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system, figures out what it is, tries to remove bacteria and other kinds of dangerous pathogens, and returns the cleaned fluid back into the blood. So the cardiovascular system has the blood in it that takes oxygen all over the body, but some of that fluid kind of leaks out in between all these cells here. And so we have to have a way to take that leaked fluid and return it back into the blood. So the lymphatic system picks it up, kind of cleans it, right? And then returns it back into the blood. So this picture here, over here on the left, shows us the different parts of the lymphatic system. You can see that there are all these different kinds of lymphatic vessels in the green that occur all over the body. There are also these tiny little dots. See these tiny little dots all over the place? So these tiny little dots are called the lymph nodes. Those are kind of central locations where things are kind of filtered and the bacteria and pathogens are removed. So what does this lymphatic system do, right? It basically kind of cleans the fluids that have leaked out of the blood. It transports them back to the blood. It also drains excess fluids from the tissues. If the lymphatic system did not drain all this leaked fluid, well, then fluid would start to build up in the legs or in the arms. Let's take a look at the different parts of the lymphatic system a little bit more closely. So we notice in this picture, right, you see all these tiny green dots all over the place? Those are called lymph nodes, right? So lymph nodes are tiny bean-shaped organs that remove pathogens and dead cells from the lymph. Remember, the lymph is kind of the fluid that flows through the lymphatic system. So these tiny dots, the lymph nodes, they kind of filter out all the bacteria and other dangerous things. These are called pathogens, right? They filter those out, and if there's anything that needs to be destroyed, then white blood cells go and they destroy them. So white blood cells, they also live in the lymph nodes, and these cells, these are used to fight bacteria and other kinds of infections. There's all kinds of lymph vessels. Just like in the cardiovascular system, we have arteries and veins, these different kinds of blood vessels. The lymph also has lymph vessels that carries the fluid throughout the body. The tonsils are also a part of the lymphatic system. So the tonsils, probably a lot of you guys have heard that people have their tonsils removed. So tonsils are these tiny little structures in the back of the throat, and oftentimes they help the body to fight infections. Now sometimes they can get too swollen when they become infected, and that's called tonsillitis. So when that happens, sometimes they are removed. You also have the thymus gland. So the thymus gland, right, is an organ, below the sternum. Right? So remember we talked about the sternum, that's the bone that connects the ribs together. So the thymus is a small organ that helps certain important white blood cells to mature and develop so that they can go around the body and fight infections. You also have a large organ called the spleen. So over here you can see the spleen is right over here. The spleen is kind of in a location next to the stomach. Right? So the spleen is an important organ in the lymphatic system. So what does the spleen do? So the spleen stores white blood cells and also allows them to mature. Now, when the blood passes through the spleen, these white blood cells kind of sense what is good and what is bad. And anything that's bad, they attack it. Right? So they attack the pathogens and try to destroy them. So this is the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is very important for draining the excess fluid from all over the body and fighting infections. You can see there's a lot of white blood cells, right? These are the cells that fight infections that are located in very strategic areas inside the lymph nodes, tonsils, thymus, and spleen. So the lymphatic system can have all kinds of different disorders. First of all, there's a certain kind of cancer called a lymphoma that often starts inside the lymph nodes. Remember the lymph nodes, the small bean-like structures? So this cancer, lymphoma, can start inside of that lymph node. Now let's suppose that the lymph system doesn't work very well, right? And some of the vessels get blocked up. So what's going to happen, you see that excess fluid that leaked out of the blood is not going to drain. So take a look at this picture over here, right? Compare the right and the left sides. Notice that one side looks kind of normal, right? The fluid is draining properly from this foot over here. But notice on this side, right, this is all swollen. So a lot of fluid is building up inside of this leg and this foot, and it's not draining properly. Something is blocking these lymph vessels and stopping them from draining the excess fluid. So what can block the lymph vessels from draining the fluid properly? Well, one thing that can happen is that there's this worm called filarial worms that can, if a person is infected, this worm can go into the vessels and block up the vessels. Also, there's different kinds of bacteria that can also block the vessels as well.